Let's talk about the employers today on the H2B visa. What is it that employees are looking for in employers, in companies that we want to work for when it comes to the time for us to start looking for a H2B job? What is it that impacts our decision to choose one company on the H2B visa over another? I'm going to be speaking from not just my own personal experience of working and living on the H2B visa for 3 years in 6 different places for 6 different companies, but also from the people who I've met along the way in those 3 years who are also on the H2B visa, as well as my community I've built of 35,000 plus people on the H2B visa. Many of those who my information has helped them to successfully secure H2B jobs on this visa. So let's first start by breaking into a couple of different categories. What are the reasons that employees come here to work on the H2B visa? In my opinion, there's 3 major categories, and I myself fall into the first one I'm going to speak about. The first one is those who are here for an adventure, to work and live in a different country, to experience a new culture, and to have a great experience abroad. The second category is those who are working to come here and save money, and maybe that money is going to convert into a lot more money for them to take home into their country. And those who are looking to excel, grow and expand into the industry that they are working on the H2B visa. For example, hospitality. Maybe people want to come and learn and grow in hospitality in world-class country clubs, for example, in America, and take that wealth of knowledge back home and apply it to advance their career. So there are 3 different main categories that I myself have come across from speaking personally to many people on this visa. So now that the employer knows a little bit of perspective of why the employees are here, we can dig a little deeper to get into our decision making. So some of the decision making is obvious and not so obvious. I would say that one of the main decision making components is the money. Of course, we want to make sure that we are making enough money to at least live and be able to sustain living in that one place. I know the wages can vary of different prices per hour. Also, the hours of work can vary, and also the ability to work overtime or not can vary. But the wage is not just the most important thing, and the wage is not always the most top priority. For example, one company can offer $12 per hour, $12 per hour. Another company, excuse me, my dogs are here, can offer $20 an hour. Guys. But there are also going to be deductions from our paychecks. Deductions for transports, deductions for housing. So one company may pay less, but deduct less from our paycheck. One company may pay more, but deduct more from our paycheck. So that's one thing we're going to take into consideration. This is one of the little monsters who was making all that noise. Hopefully she'll quiet down. Now, as an employer, you know that the employee is going to be not only working for your company, but also living, maybe on property or close by the property. And they're going to be living there for anywhere between, let's say, 5 to 8 months approximately. So living conditions matter because they pretty much are living there. So one thing we take into consideration, another thing is housing. Where is the location of the housing? Is it close to work? Is it far from work? Are we going to have a long commute? Are we not? Are we living in a safe area? What are the amenities of the housing? Is the housing already furnished? I've worked for some companies that were furnished and some are not. And to be honest, it could be quite a headache when they were not furnished, especially being there for a couple of months to organize that, as well as transitioning to a new job and transitioning to making connections with new people and forming new communities and friendships. That was one thing to take off the list of hassles. Another thing is the amenities of the housing where they live. So I've worked for some locations that are beautiful apartments that have pools and that have an area, lounge areas to hang out, and some that were old, closed, run down motels that upon arrival were dirty and had molds and were not the best conditions. So another thing we take into consideration is condition of housing, if it's furnished or not, and what are the amenities, and what is the location, and what is the distance from work. These are all things that are really going to impact us. Now, we all know first impressions matter, especially when we are on an interview with a new potential employer on the H2B visa. We want to work for a company that has a nice culture, because as I said, we're not only working for the company, we're literally living and working for or with the company, because we're living close by, we're getting transported to work, we're living with all the employees most likely, so we're going to see them and we're going to see a lot of work too. So company culture is important. It is quite important to have a nice first impression from the employer. Someone who is passionate about their job, someone who is informative and knowledgeable about the role, about the position, and someone who can provide the information that we are looking to know about as well on the H2B visa, as well as the job and the job role. Someone who has a wealth of knowledge, who can actually explain what are we going to be doing each day, what does a day in life work look like, where may the housing be? I know all these fine details may not be listed out, but is transport included or not? Is that provided? What kind of transport is it going to be to and from work? What is an approximate wage? Is overtime included or not? Someone who can answer these questions, and someone who is respectful and kind and looks like it would be a welcoming and inviting company to work for. Now let's speak about those of the employees who are here for the adventure. Can they take days off? How many days can they take off? Are they able to take a couple of days off in a row? Is there a company days out that take employees out? For example, I've heard of some companies who take their employees to, let's say, a theme park, or I've worked for a company that had days out to the beach. And these things can be quite beneficial for that person who is here for the adventure, who wants to adventure with the new community that they have built and have organised days out or meals out or trips with the company which are already arranged. It can be a great benefit. Now the days off, because that adventurer probably wants to explore some of the local area or maybe some of the further areas or states nearby, to really make the most of their adventure here. Of course, they're still taking work seriously, but they want to make sure that they have some time off to be able to do this. Because I know the reason why H2B employees are here is because the company cannot already find enough willing and able American workers to work for them in the high season. So most likely, we are really essential to work for the company at that time. And so essential that some companies can or cannot give or request days off for the H2B employees. But I think it's really beneficial for those who do value adventure to be able to at least take a couple of days off, or be allowed to take a couple of consecutive days off throughout the season, throughout the couple of months that they are there. Obviously within reason, because there is an opportunity to have a little downtime in between job roles. For example, when one visa ends on a company and the next one starts. Of course, you can negotiate yourself to have an end date and have a start date, and that way give yourself, let's say, a week off in between. That's something I've done too, to get my travel in that way, so I'm not always or taking a lot of time off work to do it in the time that I am working for that company. Food. What are we going to be eating? Are we getting staff food provided for us daily? This is quite important, because I know many of us on the H2B visa have worked for some companies that have had amazing staff food, that have had buffets daily for the staff, which they can avail to while they're at work, and also other companies that maybe didn't have this option or had a very limited option of staff food that maybe consisted of meatballs and pasta every day. That one may be personal experience. Also, some companies may provide housing on site that does not have a kitchen or does not have cooking equipment, so How are those staff members going to be fed? Is that something that the company has thought of? Is there a fridge that they can use? Is there an option that work can provide meals for them even on their days off? Or is that something that they are going to have to adventure out and get themselves? The reason why I mention that is because there are some companies that you do live on site and may not have accessible stores close by that are in walking distance, and maybe an employee has to Uber to a grocery store to get groceries, and on their day off maybe that's the only option that they have because there is no kitchen, there is no way to store food, and there is no option for the company to provide meals for them. So that would be quite an important thing to take into consideration, because that's something that can cost quite a lot of money to that individual employee as well. Following on from that topic, transport. Is transport included? Is transport included to and from work? Now, I know in most cases, yes. However, in some cases, I know some companies have found it quite hard to hire someone for the transport and have maybe been organised, and some companies have not been so organised with the transport. So we'd be curious to know of how the transport worked for the prior year to have a taste for how it may look this year and how that is run. Is there a bus that runs every 30 minutes from our house in to the job we're going to be working in? Is it every hour? Are we going to have to wait a lot of time, up to an hour at work, for the next bus to go home? Or is it going to be more frequent so we can get home? When does it align with what our work hours? Does the bus schedule align with our work hours? Is it flexible? There's a lot of questions that we can ask around transport. Now, not only on days to work, but is it an option that we can be provided with transport for essential necessities on days off? For example, if the grocery store is very far away, will transport be provided for that on, let's say, a weekly basis, or to appointments or doctors, or anything that may be required, or bank, like anything that may be required or essential for the employee to have to be an employee in the company, and also to be able to live and survive and sustain themselves. That is something to take into consideration as well. It can be a great benefit to the employee to have some of those basic transports covered. Now, if for example there's a store in walking distance, or there's a store a couple of minutes down the road that's maybe a $5 Uber, of course, nothing to take into consideration. But if the store is an hour away from the job and there is no food provided on a day off, maybe transport to a grocery store once a week could be helpful. Now, for those who are looking to excel in their career and to come over here to learn more, to take that back home and to apply it, are they going to be growth opportunities or responsibilities that that employee can grow into and learn from? For example, I've worked with some employees who are really great at teaching the employees how to look behind the scenes, to run reports, to look at the sales, to do end of shift reports for all the employees, and to learn some of that admin behind the scenes responsibilities that some of the managers or owners of the company would be going through. Some places I've worked for has even had a program for this. Now, I know this is more applicable to those who are on the J1 to learn more of that knowledge rather than the H2B, but there's some places that hire H2B employees and J1 employees, and they also let the H2B employees learn from the J1 program, and to go home with a wealth of more knowledge and more skills on not only the job role, but also on the behind the scenes of the job role that they do, to also learn maybe some managerial skills that maybe they can take home and progress into their career as well. Let's lastly close out with those who are here to make as much money as they can, to save money, and to take that home, whether they want to start building a house back home, send money to the family, go home and be comfortable and take a couple of months off, whatever it is. So for those, what is the pay range? Is overtime allowed? How much overtime is allowed? How much can they work? Because maybe the wage is $12 or maybe it's $18 or whatever it is. But if overtime is time and a half and they can work 10 to 20 hours per week on overtime, well, maybe that's drastically going to increase the money that they earn. Also, what are the deductions with the housing, with the transports, with the health insurance, all of this? Because at the end of the day, those who are looking to save really want to make sure that at the end, most of that money, or what company can have a good amount of money to put in their pocket. Now that's of course not the only thing they take into consideration, because they also want to have a positive working environment, a great place to live and be in, and positive experience, because this is their life as employees. We're living and working in this area for the months that we are here. And I think it should be a positive experience for all. So thank you for watching this video. If you do have any questions, comments, or questions, do feel free to leave them down below in the comment section. And I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.